Hey gang, David Henry from Inspired Tennis. Hope you're doing well. Hey, I want to talk tonight briefly about something called power pads. You may have heard the term, you may not have. But even if you've heard the term, you may not know what they are, so I'm going to try to explain in this video. If you know, tune out, you're good to go. But anyway, power pads are little pieces of leather, and I'm going to show you in a second. I'm going to grab the camera and come over here and show you. But they're little pieces of leather that often go at the throat of the racket, outside of the frame on the outer portion of the grommet strip. And what they do, power pads were used a lot a long time ago in the age of wooden rackets, okay? Because a lot of times at the throat of the racket, the grommet holes, the holes, sometimes the string went in at very sharp, weird angles, okay? And because of the sharp angles, that wood of the racket would kind of rub against the string, you know, at that sharper angle, and it would cause it to kind of shear and break, okay? So the solution was to take these little pieces of leather and put them right on the outer part of the throat, and basically what it would do, it would pull the mane away from the throat a little bit and allow it to go in at a straighter angle as opposed to such a sharp angle. And so that's why power pads were used, and they were used extensively in the wood racket era. Now with the modern rackets though, it's not so much an issue because you've got the open throats down here, and there's not a sharp angle a lot of times for the strings, so they're really not necessarily needed with today's rackets. However, some people still like them, some people use them. I believe Federer still uses power pads on his racket. And like I said, they're not really needed, but a lot of people maybe like them for habit or just used to them and like the way they feel, or feel that they're just getting some added level of protection with the string. I don't know. But not really needed, but some people do want them. And a thing with power pads, because you'll see in a minute, it elongates the mane a little bit because it moves the mane away. It just elongates it more. Just take my word, you'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. And because of that elongation, some people claim that the sweet spot of the racket is enlarged by making the manes longer. I can't imagine you'd be able to actually feel that, because as you're going to see, it barely makes the manes longer, but hey, that is a theory that I've heard over the years about power pads. Another thing with power pads is that, and this is probably the reason why Federer uses them, and why the client that I'm going to show you a racket I strung for uses them, and you know, if anybody who's using them on a modern day racket, the reason they probably use them is because of the feel. It's kind of like a vibration dampener, okay? It kind of dampens the overall feel of the string bed. And instead of having the little rubber vibration dampeners toward the bottom of the string bed, instead you've got these little leather strips on the outside of the frame in the throat, but basically kind of does the same thing. So, wanted to explain that. That's what power pads are. That's kind of why they were used in the past, and maybe kind of why they're not needed as much now. But again, you'll see them very rarely, very, very rarely. Let me grab the camera. I'm going to go over here, so bear with me. And I'll show you. These are leather strips that I bought from Grand Slam Stringers. So I think I paid like $6 plus shipping, so it was like $10 total. And I got a few feet of these leather strips from Tim Strawn at GrandSlamStringers.com. And then basically take the leather strip, you can see how wide it is, and I cut it into little pieces and create the power pads. So there are the actual power pads themselves. You can see based on my finger, you know, the size of my finger compared to the power pads, they're really small little pieces of leather, but those are them. So basically I took the strips that you saw, cut those into smaller pieces, and then they're ready to be installed in the racket. And let me grab this racket here that I just strung for my client, and I'll show you. Let me clear away these power pads. There we go. And you can see there's the 4 power pads in the throat of the racket. So I'll angle it up this way a little bit, and you can see, yeah, the string just wraps around there. So you can see what I mean about the string being the mains being a slight bit longer because of the power pad in there. And really, that's it. I mean, and you can imagine by seeing in there, you can imagine the vibration dampening effect that it would have on the feel of the string bed. And here, I'll lift it up so you can see the thickness. You can kind of see them at that angle. You can see how thick they are from kind of that side view. And so really, that is it. I'll show you this. It's kind of funny. I was at my parents' yesterday for Easter. Today's the 25th, and I was there yesterday, then the 24th for Easter. And I found this racket in their garage, Dunlop McEnroe Jr., one of the first rackets that I remember getting new. I think I played with some older wooden ones with my parents before I really started getting into tennis, and then I think this was the first one that I remember them buying for me new. I love this racket. It's a cool little stick. But anyway, when I was looking at it yesterday, I noticed, and it was very timely because I was stringing these rackets for my client with power pads, I noticed that this one has power pads. You can see that little round leather strip, and you can see the angle I'm talking about. See, the throat of the racket is not open. Okay, you got this solid piece of wood, so it's not like today's rackets with the open throat. There's a sharp angle there, so that's why the power pads were needed. So you can see two little power pads there. So pretty interesting. Anyway, that's it, gang. I just wanted to. I'm going to set the camera back up here. Hopefully, I get the right angle so that you can see me standing here with my McEnroe Jr. But anyway, those are power pads. If you ever come across hearing about them or someone wanting to want them in their rackets that you may need to string for them, or if you as a player just want to try them, something to consider. But I just want to bring it up because sometimes you'll hear the term and maybe not know what they are, and now you have a pretty good understanding, hopefully, of power pads. If you want to order them ever, go to GrandSlamStringers.com and order them from there. If you don't want to buy the whole strip and you just want some, I can cut some up for you. Maybe charge $1 or $2, and if you cover the postage, I'll be happy to cut some up and send them to you. Otherwise, just order them from Grand Slam Stringers, and you can cut them up there yourself. They're really easy to do. So I will quit my rambling. That is all I have for tonight, and I will say thanks for checking in.